Inside the NFL brought to you by Infinity. Now, the matchup for Super Bowl 59 in the NO, my hometown, is finally set. The Kansas City Chiefs versus the Philadelphia Eagles. And who better to bring you all the news, all the analysis than Coach Bill Belichick, the 8-time Super Bowl champ, 6 times as the head coach of the New England Patriots, and back-to-back Super Bowl winner Chris Long and Chad.
Wait, I won one on Madden.
And Chad Ocho Cinco Johnson. I'm your host, RC. But it's a big week with some big games and some big quarterbacks. So we brought in a quarterback of our own.
My first snow game. Let's get it.
And here we have the Heisman Trophy winner, #1 overall pick, and snow game connoisseur, Jameis Winston. What's up, brother? Welcome to the show, my man.
I'm still open. Yeah, we always open.
I should stand up to greet my quarterback, man. You tackle me.
Oh, there we go. There we go. Hey, listen, Ocho, by the way, I know you heard him. He said he's still open. So just in case you want to throw him a couple while we're on the show. Jameis, first of all, thank you for joining us. You played both of these teams. What's a matchup in this game that stands out for you?
First, man, I'm grateful to be on here with all y'all, man. Coach, RC, my #1. Got to sack me a few times. Go there.
Yeah.
But in a game with glitz and glamour, fancy offensive coordinators, to me, it starts with the trenches. I think perfecting that 5 to 7 yards behind, in those 2 A guys behind the center, is going to be the reason for this game. You got Chris Jones, who lines up everywhere on that defensive front, and the Eagles line that's battling some injuries right now. So that's going to be one key thing to see. But also Jalen Carter and Trey Smith, that right side of the Kansas City's offensive line is going to have to dominate the line of scrimmage against 98, who's wreaked some havoc in the playoffs this year.
I think it's a great point. You saw it in the game. Juergens had a back, Landon had a knee, and they were both kind of rotating in and out. And when Juergens was out and Dickerson had to play center, they had trouble picking up protections.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. Going against a Spags defense is very important.
Chad, they're talking about the trenches, and we all know that games are won and lost there. But looking at these skill groups, what do you think is the advantage or disadvantage there for each team?
Obviously, with the Eagles and what Saquon is able to do, will Spags be able to be exotic and creative enough to be able to slow down the run? Then I look on the opposing side when it comes to the Chiefs. Whose day is it going to be? Is it Kelsey? Is it going to be Worthy? Or is it going to be Hopkins? So you never know depending on who they're playing. And Patrick Mahomes is one that never makes mistakes, especially when the biggest moments and biggest games like this one.
Coach, for you, how did you sort of set up the weeks to make sure the game plan was in and ready and the guys were prepared for the game?
Yeah, Ryan, I think there's 2 things that were important. #1, in preparation. I looked at it as kind of 80-20. 80% of the work was, installation work was done the first week before we left, and then 20% was done once we got to the site to keep things new, keep things fresh, add a couple wrinkles, but to kind of review the rest of it. The other thing about getting to the Super Bowl site itself is just, to me, the most important thing for the players, coaches, staff, everybody, is just to learn the meaning of the word no. Everybody wants something. Everybody wants you to do something, go somewhere. No, just let's concentrate on the game. Don't worry about whether your uncle has a king or a queen-size bed in his room. Just win the game and then worry about it afterwards. That's all we're going to remember is who wins this game. And so all the rest of it is put it off till the off season if you can.
I remember watching film on a Friday night in the hotel. Somebody comes in and says, "Hey, we got to go to the owner's party."
Right.
I said, "What are we doing?" I'm getting ready for a football game. So these are the distractions that if you don't get them done week 1, they're just going to persist.
Yeah, and I think it was good my first time that a lot of the Steelers had already been there.
Yeah.
So they were able to give me that advice of taking care of tickets, taking care of hotels, getting all of those things done early, and also finding someone to help you out with those things so you didn't have to do them. And so there's everything, right? There's the trench war, there's the skill players, there's understanding the logistics of the week. But Jameis, we all know it comes down to these 2 quarterbacks, Jalen Hurts versus Patrick Mahomes. What do you think is interesting when we speak of those 2 players, and what's going to be needed from them to win Super Bowls for their team?
Man, stay with me here because I believe training camp is turning into training day. We know Patrick Mahomes is the king on the block, and Jalen is trying to take that throne. But to whom much is given, much is required. Jalen has done some amazing things, and the most important thing that he's done is won football games. Yeah. But will Jalen be able to win this football game when it matters the most? This is his second time facing against this specific quarterback. So we know what Patrick has done year in and year out, and we've seen great work from Jalen. But on that day, who will be the best?
And listen, we have a ton more on this game, but coming up, we've got the best sights and sound from the AFC Championship game, courtesy of in shock like she hasn't seen it before from Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, and the Kansas City Chiefs. But once again, the Kansas City Chiefs are in the Super Bowl, Coach, looking for the three-peat. But let's focus on these teams that lose. When you're the Buffalo Bills, the Detroit Lions, all of these teams that had sort of these Super Bowl expectations, what are they thinking right now as they sit at home to try to figure out what happened?
I think they have a sick feeling. They really do. I've been there before, and it's not just January. It's February, March, April, May, June. Those games just, they stick with you. You never forget them. And it's a long off season, but you've got to bounce back and you got to be ready to go. But they just, you just say, I can't let that happen again. We can't lose that way. You got to find a way to eliminate those kind of mistakes in these critical games.
Absolutely. Chad, when you see Patrick Mahomes sitting at the top of the hill, what are you thinking about those other guys?
I mean, the other guys are going to have to wait. The teams are going to improve. They're going to improve year in and year out. But it's one thing. Think about the 90s Bulls. Lakers, Celtics, think about the New York Yankees when they had their run. You know, you think about Coach Belichick when he had his run with Tom. Like, at what point will Lamar, Joe Burrow, or anyone else have their Ben Roethlisberger moment, you know, or their Joe Flacco moment? Because you're going to always have to knock down the big dog. Mahomes is only 29. He's only 29, so he's going to play for what, maybe another decade?
Yeah,
Andy
right.
Reid will still be there. So even though other teams are improving, well, so are the Chiefs as well. So it's going to be a very, very long time, and everyone has to have their moment.
If you're the Buffalo Bills, you sort of overachieved this year. What do you think are some of the next steps for them?
It's about the team. It's not just about the quarterback. Patrick Mahomes has done everything to earn the right to be this generation's Tom Brady.
Yeah.
Okay? And Josh fell short. But you got to ask the question, how many points would the Buffalo Bills have scored on that secondary?
Right.
That's not good enough to be in the playoffs this deep, and definitely not good enough to beat the Chiefs, who have played complementary football and kept good to great defenses on the field through the whole tenure.
So I have a question for you. Would you rather be sort of wide receiver by committee, or would you like to know on 4th and 5, I have a guy on the outside that can win in this sort of moment?
So when you're in those situations as the quarterback, you're analyzing who can I trust, right? Who's going to win my one-on-one matchup at any given moment? Like, who is my matchup nightmare on their team? Like, who's the duck for them? Like,
no question.
Has that one player that you like, that person's going to get attacked the whole game.
We would call them fish if they were offensive linemen. So if you had an offensive lineman that was a problem, we'd call them fish.
Yeah.
But that's what the playoffs are about, too, is finding the weakness. But winning a Super Bowl is about, the little I know from being on two very good teams, is not making the big mistakes. It's not